Welcome back to Thimbleberry U. I'm John Jaggay, joined as always by Amy Wallace from Thimbleberry Financial. Hello, Amy.
Hi, Jag.
Today we're talking about something that surprises a lot of people in healthcare as they get closer to retirement. It's not the timing, it's not the math. It's that mental shift from being a lifelong saver to actually becoming a spender, and what it takes to feel confident using the money you've worked so hard to build. If you've spent years following order sets and caring for others, that transition can feel pretty unfamiliar. Amy's here to help us unpack what's behind that feeling and how an income plan can bring structure back into the picture.
Yeah, Jag, I am so excited about today's topic. Many people in healthcare are used to being the steady one, right? You conserve resources, anticipate needs, and protect people. And that mindset, we found with clients really becomes part of your identity. So shifting to spending feels like breaking a rule, a really important rule you've lived by your whole adult life.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, retirement also removes familiar rhythm, right? And if we think about the day-to-day of someone in healthcare, it's obviously got different patients and such, but there's rhythm to that. All of a sudden, that's broken too. And so when the shifts stop and the paychecks stop, it can create a sense of, if you will, floating without a framework. And for those healthcare professionals who thrive on structure, that's especially unsettling.
Yeah.
So adding a clear income plan brings that structure back. It's recreating a paycheck and understanding where that's coming from, how it will be replenished. And when you do that, spending starts to feel responsible rather than risky.
Comes down to having a plan.
It does. And it's finding a way to transition into retirement without changing who you are. Because who you are is great. You don't need to change that. You just need a new system that works for you in this phase of life. So it's giving this next chapter the same thoughtful planning that you used and brought you through your career.
I mean, this is something that all retirees have to deal with, that shift from earning money to spending the money that you've earned. But I know this really resonates with the healthcare professionals you work with. You work with a lot of nurses, physicians, and even hospital leaders who struggle with this transition, even though they're financially ready for it. What makes this shift so emotionally difficult in the healthcare realm?
Well, emotionally is the right word. Healthcare work reinforces responsibility. You make decisions that matter and you learn early that caution protects people.
Sure.
And it is natural, absolutely natural for that to spill into money habits. So saving becomes a symbol of safety. Watching accounts grow feels reassuring, and watching them go down, even in a planned way, can trigger a bit of anxiety.
Sure.
So many clients tell me they expected retirement to feel like relief. But instead, when they get there and actually have made the jump, they've felt uneasy because the structure disappeared overnight.
Yeah.
Now, we're plugging in a new structure, and understanding that helps that. But there is still often a sense of unease. And so this is normal. That's what I want our listeners right now to hear, is experiencing these emotional ups and downs is normal, especially for people who've spent their careers serving others.
Okay.
So really, the point here is the shift becomes easier when we name what's happening. You're not just changing how money moves, you're adjusting to a new identity, one where you're still you, but that new phase of life creates this change. And once you understand that, we can really build a spending plan that feels aligned with the same discipline and care that, was brought throughout your working years.
That makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of our listeners are in the healthcare field and they understand order sets better than retirement planning. How do you translate that clinical structure into your area of expertise, the financial one?
Yeah, well, most people enter retirement with a collection of accounts, a 403B, a 457 plan, pensions, IRAs, HSAs, personal savings. On their own, these are all individual pieces. An income playbook, if you will, brings those pieces together. It defines what each account is responsible for, how everything works together to create stable income. Jag, in the past, I think I've shared with you that how I envision planning, right, is like a puzzle.
Yeah.
And our client's vision of what they want the rest of their life to look like is that picture that belongs on that puzzle. But all these pieces we've just talked about, plus more, tax situation today, tax situation tomorrow, your home or homes, all these other pieces, those are the puzzle pieces. And so we have to fit them together to make that picture as beautiful as it can be.
Makes sense.
In this, the pieces, with those puzzle pieces, we have to lay out which accounts fund predictable paychecks and which ones support goals like travel, home projects, or hobbies. And then really we're creating a step-by-step flow for where withdrawals are going to come from, when they happen, and how that cash buffer, right, your cash reserves really is getting replenished to recreate that paycheck.
Okay.
And so for many of our healthcare clients, once we've mapped that out, that feels familiar. It mirrors clinical protocols. You have clarity, you have order, a plan that you can trust.
Everything you're saying makes sense, Amy. You've got this goal of retirement at the end of the road, go, 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 and you get there and it's like, now what? And you kind of need that plan. So that paycheck has been the backbone of life for decades. How do you help somebody rebuild that feeling of stability once that weekly or monthly or biweekly paycheck is gone?
One of the first steps is identifying true essentials: housing, groceries, medical expenses, transportation, the parts of life that you consider non-negotiable. And right, for different people, that's different. Then we map out stable income sources, right? That could be a pension, it could be Social Security, or a portion of a portfolio earmarked for steady monthly withdrawals.
Yeah.
First, we're going to focus on protecting the essentials, because when we know the basics are covered, when you know the basics in your life are covered, no matter what the market is doing, it really becomes easier to enjoy the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So from there, we add layers for travel and hobbies and spontaneous joy, if you will.
I like that, spontaneous joy.
These layers can flex over time, which keeps the plan more realistic. So, for example, if the market goes down, we don't want our clients saying, oh gosh, let's tighten our belts on everything because I don't want to pull out of my accounts right now. And we can remind we have this steady income to cover all of these things, but maybe if you're feeling uncertain about the market being down and not wanting to pull out extra, this is a year for lighter travel. Or if you're planning your travel a year and ahead, maybe the next year is the lighter travel year, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
So research shows that people spend more confidently when their income feels like a paycheck. And so that's why we focus so much on recreating a paycheck in retirement, because our goal is to make retirement income feel familiar, predictable, and really dependable.
You want it to be concrete, not this abstract out of the universe, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so when it comes to retirement, we've talked about this in previous episodes. They refer to it sometimes in 3 phases: the go-go, the slow-go, and the no-go years. How do you help healthcare professionals, Amy, plan for the reality that their spending is going to change over the course of their retirement?
Retirement has seasons.
Mm.
And I think if we think about it that way rather than a single long chapter, it becomes easier. Early on, you may want to travel more. You may want more movement and more experiences just because you've got the energy and zest for life that you may not have later on. And then as life settles, spending naturally shifts. People often spend more time at home or with family and less on big trips. There's a point at which, and it's different for each person, but I have heard from our clients who have gone through this phase almost to a T. At a certain point, travel's no longer fun.
Yeah.
Sitting in a plane is uncomfortable. Doesn't matter what kind of ticket I get.
I think that's true for everybody these days, but your point is well taken.
Yeah. And it's really interesting. Like there's this phase where I like these things, and then no, I don't like to deal with airports. I don't want to deal with this.
With people.
Yeah, exactly. So then sometime around that time or after, healthcare costs may rise while these other expenses decrease.
Sure.
So that new season allows us to kind of shift what we expect in terms of costs. Obviously, projections are not reality, but we can use people's preferences, your preferences, as well as data that exists around how these things change to make informed decisions of what that might look like for you. So basically, the plan flexes with you. It's not one rigid number. And then we can use some guardrails to say, oh, this combination along with market performance means maybe your chance of success is dropped just a little bit lower than what you're comfortable with. Maybe we need to tighten just a little bit as we move along to make those decisions. But I do love the go, slow go, and no go, because it is something we can all visualize.
Yeah.
Without needing to get really specific and pinpoint something that for a lot of people is hard to pinpoint until you're actually there.
This is why you and I are a good balance, Amy. And actually, why my wife and I are a good balance too. I do things on gut and feel. You're here talking about data, and having those numbers to create and back up a plan is so important. Especially we're talking about going from something as rigid as a paycheck to as sometimes nebulous as retirement.
Absolutely, and you're right. Right, couples often think about things differently, so we have to make sure we're creating a plan that works for both people.
Right. So from data to systems, we've talked about, kind of having some, not rigidity, maybe that's too strong of a word, but some structure to this. A lot of people feel nervous when they have to manually pull money from those accounts. How does automating that process change the experience?
Automation brings back the rhythm that you're used to with paychecks. Your income shows up on a schedule. Your withholding is happening behind the scenes. Now, that can't happen with all account types, but with IRA withdrawals, 403b withdrawals, all of that, you can make that happen. You can also have a cash buffer that protects you from market swings. I alluded to that earlier. So when markets are volatile, you're not forced to sell investments just to cover expenses. So let me paint that in a different way. If we have 2 years worth of cash sitting in cash reserves, maybe we consider that more like a money market, so somebody doesn't think this is sitting in a checking account, not earning anything.
Right.
2 years of expenses sitting there, and we have monthly withdrawals coming out of an IRA with tax withholding to cover cash flow needs, and the market drops. And let's say the market drops over 20%, right? I probably wouldn't want to do this if it only drops 5%, but it drops over 20%. We might say, hey, remember how we have this backup plan that the money you're taking from IRAs aren't part of required minimum distributions, or you've already met that. Let's turn those off until we get some market recovery and let you use some of the cash you have on hand because it's there for this exact purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were taking $5,000 net per month out of your IRA, well, just pull that out of your cash accounts at this point.
Got it. Okay.
And even that you can turn on. So it's coming out of your money market account into your checking account on a monthly basis. So again, automation. And what I've found, Jag, is that when clients see money land in their checking account the same way it always has, that tension goes down, shoulders relax, because it feels like what they know. It's a paycheck is landing rather than I'm taking a withdrawal.
Okay, that makes sense. If someone's listening today on their commute, on the break, like me walking the dog, what should they start doing today to make this transition smoother as they approach retirement, Amy?
Jag, are you saying you listen to our podcast while you're walking your dog?
Yes.
Okay.
I do listen to many podcasts while I'm walking the dog. I listen to our podcast when I edit it.
Fair enough. So what should they start doing today to make this transition smoother? First step, begin with a simple snapshot. Pull together pension details, retirement account, savings, and a rough idea of spending. This doesn't need to be perfect.
Right.
It's a simple snapshot. Start picturing visualizing your future routines. What's intriguing to you during this phase of life? What's not intriguing? You know, I plan to ski a lot in the winter. I'm looking forward to that. The boogie boarding with grandkids and trips. You know, these are all things in my visual picture, but you have your own. So think about what will give you purpose and rhythm when your shifts are no longer structuring your days.
Got it.
And then this is where you may need a professional. Run projections with someone who can stress test your plan.
Yes.
You want to see a range of outcomes because that helps you make decisions with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Try a trial paycheck. For some people, this is helpful. Live for a month or two on your future retirement income based on that and direct the rest into savings. How does that feel? You can learn a lot about what feels realistic and what doesn't.
That's a really good point because you talk about planning and all this, but you know, the best laid plans may not work in reality when you stress test them.
Absolutely. So if it needs some tweaks, test it. And lastly, I'm going to say, remember that you built this nest egg for a reason. And I can almost guarantee, which is very rare in this industry, that the goal is not to hold on to the money for forever. The goal is to enjoy the life you worked so hard to create. And so by keeping that front and center, it can really help.
Our regular listeners will know this is not a case where you're going to say it depends. Most people don't want to take it all with them to the grave.
Absolutely.
All right. As we wrap up, Amy, what are some key takeaways from today?
First, this transition we're talking about from saver to spender is emotional, not just financial.
Yeah.
And so embrace it. It is what it is. And the sooner I find that people embrace that fact, the easier it is to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
Structure brings confidence. And having an income playbook, recreating a paycheck, whatever we want to call it, recreates the rhythm that you're used to and protects the essentials. And that can create a lot of confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Third, I'm going to say flexibility matters. Spending will shift as life shifts. And your plan needs to be able to adjust with you and to whatever phase of life you find yourself in, expected or unexpected. And fourth, and I think perhaps most importantly, you deserve to use what you built. Retirement is a time to let your money support you in the same way that you've given to others throughout your career.
And for our medical professionals, especially who have given so much over so many years, you've worked hard to enjoy your retirement. So enjoy it.
Absolutely.
Amy, if anybody listening or watching this podcast, because we're now on video as well, wants to contact you and your team at Thimbleberry Financial, what are the best ways to reach you?
They can give us a call at 503-610-6510 or find us online at thimbleberryfinancial.com.
Great stuff, Amy. We'll talk again in a couple of weeks.
Sounds great, Jag. Look forward to it.
Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated. Discussions in this show should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Thimbleberry Financial are not affiliated.